Like if there was an issue of someone wearing like a Speedo or a mankini like Borat or something like that, fine, that's one thing. But I mean, you're talking about pants.
Grandmaster Emil Sutovsky, and I will introduce him as that first because he was a very successful player in his career and now FIDE CEO. Emil, it's been a very strange day as a spectator and a person who has to provide information to the audience. It was kind of 3 peaceful rounds, and then I started hearing rumblings that something is wrong with Magnus's dress code, but he sat over here like on an iPad for an hour and nothing was happening, and then he sat for an interview, I got the news, and he left. So what happened?
Well, you described the story how it was, and we always wanted to have some sort of peaceful resolution to that. And unfortunately, like Magnus actually admitted himself, for him it became a matter of principle from some moment. It's not like he was not given enough time. It's not like he was told to change immediately. He did have a lot of time to go and to do so, and unfortunately he just decided that he wouldn't do so.
Is a CEO a GM? I mean, that's part of a bigger topic. Yes, he is a grandmaster, and not only is he a grandmaster, but he's also a he's also a strong grandmaster. Like, he's someone who's close to 2700 at his peak. He might have even crossed it very briefly, but he's someone who is very close to the elite level. So I actually would say that when people are asking about a CEO, I think it's a bad thing. I don't think the CEO of FIDE should be someone who's a top level GM, because frankly, I think in order to become a very strong GM at the elite level, there's certain things that you're lacking. And I don't really say that to like insult like 2700 plus GMs, but in order to get to that level, the amount of dedication and time that you have to spend on the game, the qualities that you're lacking in are things that I think are very, very important. Like what? Well, I'll give you a good example. First of all, Emil has a little bit of the Kramnik thing going on. I remember this from when I played him many times over the years. He is another player who always assumes that he's winning in every game. Always winning. Every game he's better or winning no matter what. So this is something that's very bad when you have this kind of ego and you start thinking that, like, you know, you're the best, you're always winning every game. That's something that's not very good as it relates to leadership roles. So that's the first thing that I would point out, because like I played Emil and I played him in the Isle of Man in like 2017 or something. I beat him in a game, and I remember that I beat him because he played this dubious Queen's Gambit accepted line, and he was just like, he was trying to argue that he was always fine, or was always counterplay, and he was just worse. He was just down a pawn and worse. And like that's kind of not, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing when someone's not objective. Like, you know, there are plenty of times that I'll think I'm winning in positions, but you'll never hear me always saying like, I'm winning this game, I'm always better. I don't have that attitude. And Emil does have a bit of that. He's not the only one. Many top GMs have that, and many players I played over the years are the same way. But when you lack that objectivity, it's going to start influencing other things in your life as well. So let's keep going.
Yeah, it's a pity, but at the same time, I think the decision of Chief Arbiter was fully correct, and I also think that regulations are there. It's not just we are sticking to regulations. I hate this as sticking to regulations for the sake of regulations, but there is a reason why regulations are there.
I mean, the most important point, this is going to matter whether it's Gene's Gate or the other thing as well, just to point this out, is that, like, at the end of the day, it's the opposite. Actually, you always say you're worse. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe actually that's my problem. I always think that I'm worse, and I'm too objective. I always think there's something, but that's also something that happens if you're from a certain generation as well. Now this, of course, regulations are regulations. I mean, again, the big issue with this is that, first of all, the players should once again get together and say no as a whole. If the players say no and they stand as one, like top 30 players are like, no, we're not going to play unless you know you make some changes to the dress code, FIDE would have to make changes. That's the first important point. Having said that, of course, it's nonsense. The players have played many tournaments in the past where jeans are allowed. I mean, Magnus, the jeans he was wearing, frankly, looked pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, they look pretty good. They look pretty classy. They didn't look like they weren't torn or ripped or anything else. So I think the reason regulations are there is because they choose to make they choose to come with these regulations because I think there's this view within FIDE that somehow they're going to be able to impress very wealthy individuals by having players wearing apparently nice pants versus jeans. and it's like it's just not reality, as I've said already. But that's kind of, it comes down to this, where what I said is, I think for Magnus, once it gets to the point where it's like they're being silly about it, he's like, okay, I don't care anymore, I already have my issues with FIDE. That's that.
B, they have been developed actually by Athletes Commission, which consists of players who were working on that, and
there's also but Emil here is being a little bit disingenuous. Like when he talks about the commission, that's literally a group of 5 people or 6 people who were never top level chess players who are coming up with these regulations. People who are not top level chess players coming up with regulations for events that are elite and feature the top players is something that shouldn't happen. For example, if Vishy and Non were on the commission, that would be great. Like if Vishy were on it, I know Adley is the head of it. You know, there's something funny about Adley, which is that he's the head of the commission, but also he's someone who played in the World Rapid and Blitz with Jeans. That's what's really funny about it as well. I found when I played Ahmed Adley in the World Rapid Championship, I think in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, he was wearing jeans when I played him. I think there's also a video in 2015 when he played against Magnus, where he's wearing jeans too. You said you don't want top players running FIDE. Yeah, what's the point about that? What I'm saying is it's kind of a bit of it's a bit. I think that players shouldn't be running FIDE overall, but I think that if you're talking about rules for the elite events, you have to have a top player on it. On that part, you have to. I think every other role than FIDE should just be like, you should be like at best 2,500 or lower. But I think as far as rules, like for elite events, you have to have someone who's a top player on that part of it. Because otherwise you're going to end up in the situation that you have right now. Let's keep going.
I think there is a fair balance between, let's say, players who want to wear something, but also not very sportive, not very casual. And we are playing, you saw the premises we are playing at, and I think it also deserves to keep proper attire. And
by the way, I love how proper attire. You know, one thing that's really bad about FIDE, just general comment, is that they really live in this echo chamber of where they think that the reason people watch chess is because they believe that it's like the 1970s or something, and everybody's supposed to wear a suit and a tie. It's supposed to be held in these like classic, like old school venues and everything else. And like that's just not reality. Like it's as I said in one of my interviews, like you go to a sporting event, everybody's chill. Like these days, people who are celebrities who have hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, they're wearing jeans, they're wearing fancy sunglasses, they're wearing all these different things that are just like that you would consider like 50 years ago to be not fashionable. So like that, this notion that like somehow that's the reason. Also, you know what else I would say, which shocks me, is that like, and this, when people say echo chamber, I will say this also, is I remember very clearly when I played in the 2022 Candidates in Madrid, Spain, before the event began, there was like a little tour that they gave of the facility, and literally what they kept hammering on was they're like, oh, it's like Queen's Gambit, it's like Queen's Gambit, because to them, they thought the reason Queen's Gambit did well as a show is because of how it romanticized chess, when the reason that the TV show did well had almost nothing to do with the chess, in my opinion, and had everything to do with the great acting by Anya Taylor-Joy and the great story of overcoming the adversity. And you have a girl, of course, like getting to the top of the game. So like all those things are something that played a role, but FIDE was under the impression that it's because of the venue and everything else. Everything about Queen's Gambit was great, but it was not about like the romanticizing chess is not the reason the show did well. And FIDE thinks that it was. So like they were like, oh man, this venue in Madrid, it's so like classical, it's like Queen's Gambit, all these different things. And that's just not the reason. You could talk about COVID, many other things, but they think that's the reason, and it's just not. I mean, you can talk about pandemic, but I don't care what you talk about, you guys. I don't care what you talk about, but it did not have to do with the venues or the old Russian players and the old clocks. Like that's not the reason it did well. That's not the reason it did well. So that's the point. You could say anything else, but it was not about the venue or like the old school suit and tie attire.
And what's more, several players were already fined and weren't, and they did change, and it would be.
You know what else is great about this, by the way? One point I want to make is when Emil talks about players being fined, You might not know this, but there were two players who were wearing sneakers, which are not allowed, by the way. Like Brandon Jacobson, who I played in the Rapid, he was wearing sneakers. Daniel Naroditsky was also wearing sneakers, and neither of these players were fined for that, even though that's like a much clearer violation than like denim or jeans or all this kind of stuff. So it's like when he talks about a couple of other players, it's just like, and by the way, I don't care. I don't care at all. I don't think they should have been fined, but it's complete nonsense.
Wrong to have even Magnus, even with all huge respect, to play under different set of rules, and we were very flexible. But when the chief arbiter warned Magnus, he just didn't care, and then Vichy later spoke to Magnus and Hendrik, and Lukas Turley spoke to them. And we really hope to the last moment that he will change, because the hotel is just, is 3 minutes walk for the player's convenience. It's easy to get there. The player can go, or anybody from his team, but it didn't happen. And actually, I think for Magnus, maybe it was out of combination of frustration of how he played in this tournament, and also his general attitude towards any cooperation with FIDE.
Wow. I mean, Emil's speculating here. I don't think, obviously he wasn't playing well, but it was not about that. It was about the fact that, and I think, is that when you have someone who has been so successful and done so much for chess, it's not like you expect people to like bow to you or something like that, although maybe Magnus does in some cases. But it's more about the fact that it's something so minor that has nothing to do with the chess. And so he's just like, what is this nonsense? I've been playing chess for 20 years. I'm the world champion, the best player in history, or, you could debate that, but one of the best players in history. And it's just like, I think the simple way of putting it is like, I'm too old to deal with this shit, basically. Like, you don't have to deal with this nonsense. So that's like, that's what it comes down to ultimately. It's just like, what is this nonsense? What is this nonsense?
I see. Yeah, there was a lot there. I suppose I'll ask first about the commission, because we had Giri and Jan here just before you sat down, and Jan also spoke. He had some sweater. He had to go speak. It was kind of unclear. I thought there was first a player who complained, but it's not a player. It's somebody on the commission. Oddly, I guess he's responsible for sort of the judgment call ultimately. Are these players like Giri, Nepo, current active top 10, top 20, whatever players, are they involved in conversations with the Players Commission on what they can and can't wear in the tournament?
We sent the list of the draft of dress code to all the players, and they could feedback, but no feedback was coming.
So, this is also funny. So you guys probably don't know this. Your reaction on this video is super interesting. You probably don't know this, but basically FIDE's idea of feedback is they send a random email to players and they just hope the players respond. And of course, most players will be like, what is this nonsense? Stop wasting our time. So of course the players never respond. Like even I don't respond. So it's like, what is this nonsense? It's a waste of my time. But bottom line is, what should happen is not that you send some email to the players. The players should basically have an actual vote on it, and that's how it works. Or the players as a whole should basically get together and simply say something about it. That's basically how it works, for anyone who's wondering.
Also,
so it's not like there's some maybe it is a BCC and you don't see it necessarily, but like, as far as I understand, they literally just send emails and they're like, okay, we're doing this, and they hope you respond. And then they try to say like, well, but we asked the players. No, but what they should do is they should simply there should be like a long email which basically says vote on these proposals to like the top 30 players. That's what they should do. And then of course, if the players don't vote or something, that's fine, but the top players should vote on things. There should be a direct input, not just like, let's send out random emails.
This dress code, more or less, it has been adjusted, actually softened but initially it was introduced in 2018, so it's 6 years, and it was just softened compared to that. So it's not something new. Also, it has to be said that for some reason, I don't know why, but there are several players who always find a way to stress that they just don't care and they would wear whatever it is. And for a number
Can I
of
speed up
years,
the video? I could.
they just there were no action taken on anything. So, but this year we also softened it again, but urged that, look, we're playing at such a venue, it will be strictly followed, and basically that's what happened. And it's pity that some players prefer just to not care. As if you see, out of 180 players, maybe a handful didn't care. All the rest are fine with that, and we didn't hear complaints about that. And
I will just say, I mean, Jan and Anish were sort of laughing about the fact that this policy will really only be enforced for top 10 and 20 players. Like if you're off on board 40 and you're in jeans and sneakers, FIDE won't chase you down.
That's not true. That's not true. We have been chasing players down as well. But
I actually I think Anish, I think Emil is wrong here, by the way. I think it's very clear and that for top players it's very different. Like the players who are at the bottom, who are already spending so much money and are out of pocket, probably like close to $10,000 playing in the tournament between airfare and hotel and food, they're not going to be going after those guys. They're not going to, because like I said, a perfect example is Brandon Jacobson, who I played in the Rapid, and like he's someone who's like 25-50-ish, not someone who's very successful playing the game. I mean, he is a good player, but he's not very successful financially, and he wasn't getting chased down to get fined, because they're not going to find the players who it actually hurts. They're only going to find the players who can basically afford it, and it's not going to mean anything to. So like I strongly disagree with what Emil is saying. Also, like you can make it, like another example is, why did Anna Maya of all people get fined 2 years ago? It's because she's actually someone with a presence. She's someone who is someone who's known as a streamer. I mean, you can talk about financial or whatever, but she is a personality, someone who is known, which is why she got fined. So I actually completely disagree with this take. I think this is 100% dead wrong from Emil, and it's all about trying to make an example out of the people who are like personalities or who can clearly just afford it. That's all it is. It's just a show.
Obviously, the top players who are under cameras, they're simply under radar of arbiters and those who see it. And I think the higher your position is, the higher your responsibility. But in general, I think we keep talking about chess being professional and so on. In tennis, I mean, it would be very strange to imagine that players would not fulfill not only dress.
I don't know, but you know, there's one problem, and this is where I'm going to go off. Like this is what annoys me. Emil always tries to act like, you know, FIDE is doing some great thing for the players. He's not. The reason that the reason that the players have no issue with the dress code or anything else in Wimbledon is because they're getting paid millions of dollars. The first prize for winning Wimbledon is $3 million. Get your sponsors and then complain, Emil. Like get your sponsors. And then complain about it. Like he acts like FIDE is some great organization doing something. FIDE does not bring in sponsors. There is not money for players across the board, and he's trying to pretend that it's like everybody's making millions of dollars every year, and that's just completely absurd. Comparing tennis with chess is like, again, as I've said earlier a couple of times, if you want to compare chess to tennis, then do a good job and get real sponsors instead of having one sponsor who's a wealthy individual for every freaking tournament. So like I don't like it. It's a chess problem, not a FIDE problem. Well, that's fine, but don't pretend that FIDE is some great organization doing great things for the game when they aren't. You know, you can say tennis sells out, but yeah, I mean, you can say tennis sells out. I get there are other reasons, but the point is the players are making lots of money from the game. So the players are fundamentally okay with the system. I think Djokovic had some issue, or there's something for helping players below the top 100. But the bottom line is that he's acting like you can compare chess to something which is a $1 billion industry, when, you know, chess.com might be doing very well, but FIDE itself is nowhere near there.
Code, but also press conference and all the stuff which is required from professional tennis player to be a player. Now, the only argument which I hear to that, yes, but you don't pay as much as in tennis, and that's why. But actually, for top players, I think they could understand that respecting all that, not only about the dress code, about once again appearing in the press conference or doing some extra activity, playing some simul or doing some social activity. Unfortunately, every time we have like to convince players to do so, and we rarely have a cooperation on that, and that's a pity.
It's not a pity. It's because you do nothing for the players. You do nothing for the players, and then you expect them to be. You do nothing for the players, and then you expect them to be. You expect them to bend over backwards and be grateful when you're doing nothing for them. So yeah, I mean, this is actually kind of annoying to me to hear this. Like, the bottom line is when he says people talk about money, don't compare chess to tennis. Compare chess to something as well where nobody makes a lot of money outside of the top 1 or top 2 players. So yeah, I mean, this is actually upsetting me a little bit. So let's keep going.
Again, today's we are not happy about. I'm very unhappy about the fact that the tournament would continue without Magnus. Shall he prefer not to play in round 10? I have to say that he was not disqualified from the tournament. I think you tweeted something that he was disqualified from the tournament. He was not.
So he had the chance to come back.
Yes, he was banned from the round because that's a actually sort of punishment which is prescribed.
Okay.
So technically, he was not banned to play in round 10.
Who cares?
Yes, but I would argue that's more symbolic than anything else. I mean,
okay, it depends where it happens and depends how many points you have. When you have 5 out of 9, maybe it becomes symbolic.
Sure, yeah.
If you have 7 out of 9, I can recall how Fischer continued in Seuss.
Here comes the arrogant top chess player attitude. It's coming out now. Now you got the arrogant top chess player attitude where he's doing it because of his result. Like here comes the arrogant 2700 GM attitude. I was waiting for it to come out. It finally did.
Got actually punished, but then he decided to withdraw it nevertheless. Again, there is never an intention to harm players because we actually, as FIDE, put a lot of effort to have also this event or have many other events. And as probably your guests in the studio, if you interview them, they would surely confirm the prize money which we're putting get higher and higher in every event. So it's not
gets higher and higher in every event. Again, it's very he's actually surprisingly good at spinning things a certain way. I mean, I haven't listened to a lot of Emil, but he's very good at spinning things. Yeah, we increase the prize fund by $10,000 or something, but it's like first prize, but like first prize only goes up by like $1,000. But yes, we've increased the prize fund for the overall tournament. It's good stuff. You know, it's pretty funny to listen to. Also, by the way, top events, as I've said many times, FIDE doesn't have any top events at all. They literally have the Grand Swiss, they have the World Cup, and they have the FIDE World Rapid and Blitz. That's it. Finished. 3 events. They're acting like they have a bazillion events for top players. Most top players make their money from the Grand Chess Tour, not from FIDE events. So it's complete nonsense.
True to say that we just wanted to impose some rules and to make players to play by the rules. It is just that there are certain rules that to be followed, but at the same time, it's not like we're just trying to be draconian. These are rules which
like a good example also, you guys, was in the FIDE candidates in 2022 when Fabiano and I both got strongly worded emails basically telling us that we were wearing jeans and we couldn't wear anything else. Like those of you guys who probably are unaware, in 2022, after like round 4, whenever the first rest day was, they basically strong-armed Fabiano and myself, and they're like, you can't wear these pants anymore. And I guarantee you, nobody at all was complaining about that whatsoever. Nobody was complaining about it. Nobody was complaining at all about any of that. And then they go and they basically like they start like you can't wear your pants. Like, it is completely a power trip for FIDE. They love this fake power that they have and being able to push players around. So yeah, like this is like it's actually like, I'm trying not to be too negative, but I actually am kind of annoyed hearing this because this is just ridiculous what's being said. So that's like, yeah, the main point. Let's keep going.
To be respected, and we also have to do a lot for players to feel good. Now, talking about Magnus' points, I think he also mentioned himself, and here I want to be very clear and correct his word, or just to say that
Emil is not 100% right, and I'll tell you why he's not 100% right. If FIDE were organizing tournaments, which had, let's just say they organize top level tournaments every year to the tune of prize funds around, let's just say $20 million as a total, or maybe even more, I might be inclined to agree with them. but FIDE is not bringing any money to the game. They're basically surviving in spite of everything, which is, it's pretty impressive, honestly, that they are. But yes, they are not doing anything to justify what's going on. They aren't. Plain and simple, they aren't.
It's a sort of mispresentation of facts about the freestyle and threatening players, like he puts it this way. We have nothing against the series. We disagree to series to be called World Championship without FIDE approving them. That's two huge differences. We are never against any private tournament series which are organized. We are cooperating in a great way with Grand Chess Tour for many years already, making sure that their calendar and our calendar doesn't clash and players have all the possibility to take part in these events. The same was for freestyle chess. I spoke to Jan Bitnev several times about that, and it was all fine. The only problem started when they claimed that they don't care what we think about it, and they can call themselves World Championship.
Of course they can.
So like a freestyle chess world championship.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
that was my question, because look, I got to tell you, there was 4 very cryptic social media posts over the last week. I sort of tried to read between the lines, but I was wondering, is it simply just a matter of naming rights, or is it a matter of you sort of said?
Also, like, to be clear about this too, FIDE does not have they do not have the rights over words. Nobody has copyright over words. That's like, it's very, very important to note that. Which is, it's a really, really critical point. So because they can't copyright the words, that's why you start seeing these contractual things, where it's like you can't play in a world championship. They basically put words into things, and there's nothing they could do. Like if freestyle chooses to do it, the thing with FIDE is they always want to have their hands in everything, and so that's why it's like you can't do this without us like approving it, basically. Now, if the Grand Chess Tour tomorrow decides to call themselves the Grand Chess Tour World Championship, you would have the same situation probably. Levy is not pushing him hard at all. I think it's because Levy doesn't have any of the insider info. Levy doesn't have any of the insider info on any of this.
We prefer you don't do this, like the Chess.com World Championship, and they said no, we're going to do it. Is that sort of where we're at? Or?
I don't know. Not that we don't want them to do it. And Chess.com did this global championship,
yeah, global.
like they call it.
Well, FIDE was going to call, I think Chess.com was going to call their global event the Global Chess World Championship or something, and then they had the same situation with FIDE. So anyway, let's keep going.
Fine with that. I mean, players have more opportunities to play. That's great. And we are always, and once again, we are always on player side. We're happy if they earn more. Anyways, the high water rises all the ships, and it's good if top players earn more, then tier 2 earns more, and so on. And it's a promotion for chess, and everything is great. But it's not about title per se, it's about the role of FIDE, and it's very clearly described also in our handbook and in our charter that we overview all sorts of chess, and specifically Fischer chess, like this. It was there because it is old. I think the decision about that was approved in 2008 or something, 2009 maybe, is also overviewed by FIDE. And it cannot be that a private organization runs World Championship independently of FIDE. That's very clear. And
but you can't copyright the word is the point. Like you can't copyright the word. So I mean, the way that I look at it is very simple. Either freestyle is gonna they're either gonna change their name, or they're just gonna call it the Freestyle World Championship, and FIDE can try to do whatever. And that's that. Another thing I would say about FIDE, though, people probably don't remember this because this is so long ago now, but FIDE can be extremely petty. And unless I'm mistaken, when Garry Kasparov left FIDE and broke away to organize the PCA World Championship, they actually took his rating off the rating list for a year, if I'm not mistaken. So like FIDE can be extremely petty and do all these things. So like taking it at face value is just not right. Can't wait to see how this plays out. How does FIDE act like they own chess in its entirety? They don't own chess. I mean, if they own, I mean, like it's actually kind of incredible. Like a great example is chess.com. I mean, look at what chess.com has done in what, 10 years, a little over 10 years. I think it's like 12 years or so. I guess they started earlier, but like since like 2013, 2014, like they've taken over chess, and they've done a phenomenal job of making chess very accessible to the masses in a way that like FIDE has failed in 100+ years. Like in 10 years, they've done more than FIDE has done in like 1 year almost. Or not 1 year, sorry, in 100 years completely. They've done so much more for chess, and that's why FIDE is like not a good thing for not a good thing for chess in general. And I mean, I'm excited to see what happens in the future, because I think if we do get a breakaway, FIDE at the end of the day, they're probably gonna be petty, and they're probably gonna like kick Magnus off the rating list, kick me off the rating list, kick a bunch of us off. But I do think that in this modern world, it's going to be a situation where, you know, people are not going to watch FIDE events. People are not going to sponsor those events if the top players are not playing.
Players, including Magnus Carlsen, by the way, have in their contracts for the top events they participated in that 4 years since the last participation in the tournament, they cannot play in any tournament which is called World Championship. And it was very clear, and we indicated to players that that would be a breach of the
yes.
basically.
And that's a threat. That's basically a threat. That's exactly a threat. So when I forget if Emil already said that here or not, but that's basically already a threat. You can argue about like the semantics of it, but of course that's a threat. Of course it's a threat.
Agreement of the contract. Nevertheless, we were ready to talk to see what could be the ways to have approval for this championship, but only if FIDE approves it, and not that somebody decides to run a series of events under the World Championship tag.
One final question, which you've sort of touched on, but I'm just sort of going to ask it. Before Magnus left, as you say, he paused, described the stuff about freestyle chess, sort of said he's on his final straw, you know, if that's it, I'm out. And then he said some colorful words. I do wonder, is it kind of a mutual feeling of a last straw, in the sense of, you know, what it really comes down to is the genes were told to be changed, and he said, I will change them tomorrow. And they said, no, we prefer if you change them on the break. The hotel is very close. We're enforcing the rules uniformly for all players. And if it really just comes down to, well, he could have just been allowed to be past the rules for one more round. He would have come back tomorrow in slacks, and maybe it would have been water under the bridge. Is there any component of it being a mutual last straw, with both parties just sort of being unable to negotiate, come to, you know, terms, come to a relative form of peace? And is that why ultimately such a, you know, strong rule was enforced for a player of Magnus's stature? It is a big deal.
Very good question. No, a decision was actually a sole decision of chief arbiter, which has nothing to do with FIDE policy making or whatever. Alex Holovchak from England, who is known to be
this starts to age like bad milk here. Like he's trying to deflect it. He's saying that it's up to the arbiters now. But like, what about what happened in the Blitz portion then? That's actually really bad. This did not age well at all. Yeah, this did not age well whatsoever. This did not age well.
The best arbiters for many years now, and the principal arbiter, and he took this decision. It was his strong position. We're not hiding behind his back. I back his decision, but it was totally his decision, and he is in a position to take such a decision. And it's not like let's see till tomorrow. Magnus had actually 2 rounds basically to change it, and he just didn't do anything. So it was not under a spirit of a momentum.
He had 1 round to do it, because he would never have changed the genes like after getting a 0. So that's
waved
not right.
And left. No, he did have time. He just decided to do not. And whether it could be different, maybe. But I think once again, if we do impose certain conditions and certain rules, and we impose fines on players, if Jan Nepomniachtchi has to go to hotel and change, why Magnus shouldn't do so? I think it would be wrong, and I think
I mean, he's right about that part.
Right call.
Okay. He's right about that part, but where he's wrong is that he doesn't understand that the negativity around nitpicking little minor things that don't matter at all, the PR from that is going to have a massively negative impact and effect in a way that they can't, that like their rule making isn't going to be able to like offset it. That's the main thing. Is that it's just like the negative PR around something as stupid as genes is gonna have like a far more lasting impact than like one-off situation like this. Soon no one will play, but the problem is, again, like, because chess doesn't have a lot of money, a lot of players end up agreeing to this because they don't have other opportunities. It's very much a catch-22. Like, you say, well, you know, if other players can do it, it's because the fact is players don't have a lot of opportunities. Players don't have that many opportunities. So like you kind of get stuck in a situation where you agree to these things because you don't have any other options. I mean, it is effectively, it's kind of like a monopoly in a sense. Like when you have a monopoly on the world championship title, the players end up kind of like they end up having to agree to these things even though they don't want to. Like a better example like I would use is I'll use myself in relation to the like the World Blitz and Rapid, because Emil actually mentioned something here about like, you know, the quid pro quo nonsense, how they have the FIDE tax and they demand like certain things, like whether it's like 10 hours of your time or you have to do some social engagement. Like one of the things with me is that like originally I was negotiating regarding having cameras on my games during the World Blitz and Rapid, but like Emil presented me with a whole list of stuff and I'm like, okay, most of it seems reasonable. There's like this one thing I'm not going to do. And then instead of basically agreeing, Emil's like, no, I'm giving you everything already. You have to agree to something else instead. And so basically what ended up happening is that the whole thing broke down. I'm like, okay, you know, screw you guys. I'm not going to go out of my way to do all this stuff for no reason. Like, that's fine. I just won't have the cameras on my game, and that's that. So Emil's inability to ever compromise or like reach reasonable decisions, always thinking that he's correct, is why a lot of the problems exist currently. He's just he doesn't know how to negotiate whatsoever. He doesn't at all.
Well, I thank you for joining me.
He's right.
I guess
Everyone
you would be the last guest. Folks have started exiting. It's sort of quiet at the venue. And to be clear, I suppose the final question: if Magnus wants to come back tomorrow as a spectator, I assume quitting a tournament, or rather being, let's say, not disqualified but removed for a round, then not coming back and saying he won't play another one, meaning the Blitz. Can he come as a spectator? Like, what is the relationship like?
Well, I think Magnus is always welcome. I want to stress it very clearly. You put it like there was a massive animosity going to this tournament already, but it's not true. I mean, Magnus
yes, there was. Okay, this is just straight up a lie, by the way. This is just straight up a lie. This is a straight up lie from Emil. I mean, just straight up. This is just flat out a lie, because the fact is, as Emil knows, like, Magnus does not like him at all. I don't like Emil at all either at this point. So this notion that there's no animosity is it's a complete lie. It's a complete lie. There is a massive animosity between Emil and Magnus.
Here with his entire family. As you could see here, he was very much welcome. Not only in the studio, I have to say. I cannot disclose details, but it was we met many of his requests and we tried to be as welcoming as possible. And we really didn't plan to make something that would make him angry. We actually wanted him to play. It's good for chess, it's good for everyone. But at the end of the day, when it's actually Magnus mentioning a number of factors which led basically to his decision and not our decision. So
also, when Emil mentioned this, I'm almost certain that these requests and everything else likely were negotiated or dealt with by someone else within FIDE, not named Emil. So let's leave it at that.
Well, only decision was the decision of chief arbiter to actually follow the rules, and even that was given with a delay, so Magnus could adjust and go ahead. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Magnus is welcome to be as a guest, or better even as a player, even not in Rapid and Blitz, if he reconsiders, more than welcome. It's not a question of a straw, and actually I can say that Arkady Dvorkovich had personally been so often resolving all the disputes with Magnus, trying to meet his every request, not on this occasion but on previous occasions, on numerous occasions, and we always felt that Magnus is special, and we tried to go not extra mile but extra 1,000 miles. But sometimes, I mean, if someone is charged with a decision to like colorful words like he is, it probably exhibits itself in actions, unfortunately so.
Emil Sutovsky, CEO of FIDE.
Trying to paint himself as the good guy. Yeah, I mean, I think no, I mean, I think the bottom line is something like jeans should not be the red line in the sand. That should not be the red line in the sand. We're like, okay, we're gonna make decisions based off that. But no, I mean, the real problem in the FIDE is, I'll tell you what the problem is. I mean, there are many problems, but ultimately the big issue is that right now you have some of the top players who won't even deal with Emil. first of all, who will only deal with Dvorkovich. But then you have Dvorkovich, who's like the president of FIDE, but Emil is the one running the day-to-day of the organization. So it's like you have this issue of like multiple of like two people specifically, and it's not really clear who does what and how it all works. So my general takeaway on all this is that it's like, you know, the big issue is that you have someone who is like, he's trying to say that chess is doing great, he's like doing great things and everything else, but like it's just not. And this is an issue that never should have happened. Like never in a million years should there have been an issue over jeans. Like if there was an issue of someone wearing like a Speedo or a Mankini like Borat or something like that, fine, that's one thing. But I mean, you're talking about pants. I mean, come on, you're talking about pants. I mean, you really think that the main sponsor, Timur Turlov and Freedom Finance, you think they care about pants? You think they care about pants and what Magnus is wearing and they want that to be the storyline? Of course they don't. That's ridiculous. So no, the whole thing is just insane. I mean, I guess, yeah, I should say jeans, not pants, or trousers or whatever, but yeah, we're talking about jeans, as the saying goes. It's just completely ridiculous.